Hi Theo and Charlie, it's Grammy, and I have a really fun book to read to you today. It's called The Ugliest Dog in the World. It's by James Holden Jr. and the pictures are by Marilyn Miller. Once there was a dog named Algernon. He was very ugly. His head was too big for his body. He had a short, thick neck and short, stubby legs. He had a flat, wrinkled, smashed-in looking face with a black, smashed-in nose. And some of his lower teeth stuck out in plain sight even when his mouth was closed. And here he is. There's Algernon. I don't know if you can see his teeth sticking out. Algernon belonged to a little girl named Caroline, who called him Algie for short. Caroline was 8 years old and had long black hair. Algie's hair was just the opposite, short and white. And there's Caroline with Algie. She's giving him a bath, and see how she has the long dark hair? And Algie has the short white hair. Caroline didn't think Algie was ugly. I don't either. She thought he was a lovely dog. She petted him and fed him and bathed him and loved him dearly, and Algie loved Caroline too. All the same, Algie wasn't happy. He wasn't satisfied just to be Caroline's pet. He longed for people to respect and admire him. He wanted to be a success. He wanted to amount to something. Surely, he thought, there must be some secret of success that I don't know about. If I could only find out what it is, I'll bet I could really amount to something. Suddenly, Algie had an idea. I'll ask my friends about it, he decided. And he went to see a lady poodle who lived nearby. She was older than Algie, and her name was Madame Belle. She was lying on a velvet pillow with her eyes closed. And there goes Algie going to visit Madame Belle. Algie squatted down beside her and said politely into her ear, "Madame Belle, will you tell me the secret of success? You must know what it is because you've been on TV several times." Oh, Madame Belle opened one eye. "Hello, Algie," she yawned. "Why do you want to know the secret of success?" "So that I can amount to something," answered Algie. Madame Belle opened her other eye and looked at Algie's smashed-in face. "The secret of success," she said, "is beauty, Algie. Beauty like mine." "Oh, I was afraid of that," said Algie. "You must have your coat clipped just so," Madame Belle went on. "You must carry yourself as proudly as a queen. You must be so beautiful that you always win the blue ribbon at the dog show. Algie, like me." Madame Belle stood up and posed so Algie could see how beautiful she was. I'm afraid I'm not very beautiful," Algie sighed. Madame Belle was sympathetic. "You could try wearing a red ribbon around your neck, Algie, or smooth out those wrinkles on your face with some wrinkle cream. And if you could only hide some of those ugly teeth." And here is Madame Belle. Look at her sitting so proud, and she's got her trophy and her ribbons, and look at Algie's face. He looks very sad, doesn't he? Algie went home and he looked at himself in the mirror on Caroline's bedroom door. And he knew that even if he tried everything Madame Belle had told him, he'd still be the ugliest dog in the world. Several days later, he was taking an early morning walk through the fields near Caroline's house when he came upon a large dog who was standing as still as a statue in a very funny position. His nose was stretched out in front of him, pointing to a bush. His tail was held straight out behind him, and one of his forepaws was lifted off the ground as though he had a sore foot. "Hello," said Algie to the strange dog. "Why are you standing like that, so stiff and still?" "I'm pointing, silly," said the strange dog. "What are you pointing at?" asked Algie. "At birds in this bush," said the dog. "I'm a hunting dog, don't you see? When I find birds, I show my master where they are by pointing at them like this." "Birds?" said Algie. He looked at the bush. "I don't see any birds." "They're there, all the same," said the hunting dog. "Go over to the bush and bark if you don't believe me." There's the hunting dog. See how he's got his nose pointed straight out, his tail straight out, his paw. Look at Algie. He's like, what in the world is going on? Algie ran to the bush and barked, and a whole family of quail burst out of the bush and flew away. "See," said the hunting dog. "How did you know the birds were there?" asked Algie. "I smelled them. I've got an extra good smeller for finding birds, you see. That's what you've got to have if you want to be a success, an extra good smeller." "Ooh, thanks for telling me," cried Algie. "I'm going right home and try out my smeller. I hope it's extra good one so I can amount to something like you." But poor Algie was no good at smelling either. He almost had to stand on his head to get his flat nose close enough to the ground to smell anything at all. Well, he thought, maybe there is more than one secret of success. If I can't be beautiful and I can't have an extra good smeller, maybe there's another way I can amount to something. And there's Algie chasing out the birds. That night, when it was very dark, Algie heard a sound far up in the air over his head. What he heard was the wind whistling through the feathers of his old friend, the great horned owl, as the owl flew over Algie's doghouse. In a minute or two, the owl called, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," from the live oak tree at the end of the yard. Algie trotted to the tree and looked up into its branches. "Good evening, owl," he said. "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" "Who is it?" hooted the owl. He knew perfectly well that it was Algie speaking to him, but he liked to make jokes. Algie said, "Caroline says you're the wisest bird in the world, owl. Would you mind telling me the secret of success?" "It's quite simple, Algie," said the owl, clicking his powerful beak. "The trick is, if you want to be a wise and successful citizen in this world, you have to be able to see in the dark." Algie was surprised. See in the dark? Whatever for? "Ah," said the owl, "if you can see in the dark, the world lies at your feet. You're the ruler of the roost, Algie, because you can see all things, all kinds of things that nobody else can see." "Can I learn to see in the dark?" asked Algie. "I certainly hope so," said the owl, "for that's the key to success." And he flew away in search of his dinner. Oh, Algie squinted his eyes and he blinked and strained to see the owl in the darkness. He couldn't see a thing. "I guess I'll never be able to see in the dark," he said to himself sadly. There he is looking up at the owl. Owl's looking down at him. He has a sad look on his face, doesn't he? The next day, Algie happened to meet his friend Silver Streak, a greyhound. "Silver," said Algie in a troubled voice, "I'm trying to find out the secret to success. I've asked several friends about it, and each one gives me a different answer. I know you're a great success because Caroline saw your picture in the newspaper. Won't you tell me what your secret is?" "Sure," said Silver Streak. "The secret of success is speed, Algie. You've got to be very, very fast on your feet if you want to amount to anything. Take me, for example. I'm the fastest runner in the whole state of Florida. I win more dog races than anybody. So develop your footwork, Algie, if you want to be a success. And Silver Streak bounded away on his long, slim legs, so fast that he was out of sight in less than a minute. So that's it, said Algie to himself, speed. He ran home as fast as he could. His short little legs sped over the ground. He strained every muscle to run fast, but it was no good. He couldn't run half as fast as Silver Streak. There's Silver Streak. Look at him running fast. By the time he got home, he was tired and out of breath and very thirsty. He went into the kitchen to get a drink of water. And there was Dickie, Caroline's canary bird, in a cage near the window. Between laps at the cool water in his dish, Algie said, Dickie, everyone thinks you're a wonderful fellow, even though you're quite tiny and a funny yellow color, and you never leave your cage. Can you tell me why you're such a success? It's true, chirped Dickie in a high, sweet voice, that I'm tiny and yellow and live in a cage, but I can sing, Algie. I can sing. That's the secret of success. You must be able to sing to amount to anything. Why don't you try it? Algie raised his chin and he tried to sing, but all that came out of his mouth was a kind of half bark, half moan that sounded as though someone were hitting an empty barrel with a stick. Stop, stop, shouted Dickie. That's enough, Algie. You're a terrible singer. I'm so sorry. There's the little yellow bird right there. Algie was sorry too. He sulked around the house for days after that, wearing a sad expression. He lost his appetite. He wouldn't play with Caroline. Caroline thought he was sick. That's why she asked her parents to allow Algie to go with them on their summer vacation to Uncle Jerry's farm in the country. Algie will get well quickly on the farm, Caroline said eagerly. Let's take him with us. So Algie went to Uncle Jerry's farm with Caroline and her family in their station wagon. Algie rode in back with the luggage, never dreaming that on Uncle Jerry's farm, he would find the secret to success. In fact, it happened the very next day. Come on, Algie, said Caroline after breakfast. Let's take a walk. Look how sad he looks here. Through the farmyard they went, past the barn, past the chicken house, past the pig pens, and down the lane between the two orange groves and the tomato field to the wide pastures beyond. Soon they came to a pasture with a barbed wire fence around it. And here's Uncle Jerry's farm. You can see. Looks like the pigs are over there. Yep. Maybe this is like some orange trees. Looks like a really pretty farm. Oh, Algie, look at those flowers, said Caroline, pointing to the daisies and buttercups growing in the pasture. I'm going to pick a bunch for Mother. She lay down on her stomach and wiggled under the lowest strand of barbed wire into the pasture. Algie wiggled through after her, and Caroline began to pick the flowers. Algie ran off to sniff at a rabbit burrow nearby. Suddenly, Algie heard Caroline scream. Look at her, she looks like she's happy right there picking the flowers. And here's Algie over here smelling out the little area on the farm there that had the rabbit burrow. Uh-oh. Algie looked around. A huge bull with very curving horns was pawing the ground not 20 feet away from Caroline. The bull's hoarse bellows filled the air. He was very, very angry. That was plain to see. Algae said to him, "What's the matter, Bull? Why are you so angry?" "Why am I so angry?" snorted the bull. "Isn't this my pasture? Aren't those my flowers that nosy little girl in the red dress is picking? I'm going to teach her a lesson she'll never forget." And the bull raised his tail, and he lowered his head, and he charged at Caroline, ready to hook her with his sharp horns and toss her over the fence. Caroline couldn't move for a second. She was so frightened. But when the bull began to rush toward her, she leaped to her feet and dropped her wildflowers and began to run. "Algae!" she shrieked just once. Then she was too busy running to say anything else. Look how big the bull looks compared to her. Do you think she's scared? I would be so afraid. What do you think is going to happen now? Algae knew what he had to do. He had to stop that charging bull somehow. And an old instinct from long, long ago told him exactly how to do it. He shot like a bullet into the path of the bull. He gathered himself on his short, stubby legs. Then he leaped straight for the bull's nose. He felt his big, sharp teeth bite through the tender flesh of the bull's nostrils. His jaw snapped shut with a click, and the bull bellowed in pain. He slid to a stop. His eyes were wild. He forgot all about Caroline. All he could think of was this strange creature clinging to his nose. He swung his huge head from side to side, trying to make Algae let go, but Algae hung on. Caroline scraped her knees and tore her pretty red dress as she slid under the pasture fence to safety. She scrambled to her feet, thinking Algae would be right behind her. Look at him. He's got that bull, doesn't he? But Algae wasn't behind her. He was still in the pasture, clinging tightly and ever more tightly to the bull's nose. Up and down, back and forth, with mighty jerks of his powerful head, the bull swung Algae like a leaf in a windstorm. Yet Algae hung on bravely with all his might, his jaws clamped, his eyes bulging with effort. And right then, at that terrible moment, a very strange thing happened. Algae found the secret of success, for he suddenly realized that he couldn't let go of the bull's nose, even if he wanted to. His lower teeth made an unbreakable lock with his upper ones, and the only thing that could make them loosen their grip was for the bull to stop pulling against him. He found out something else too, that his flat, smashed-in nose was shaped just exactly right to let him breathe through it perfectly while he hung on to the bull with his teeth. So there he is. He can't let go until the bull stops biting him. "Oh my," thought Algae as he battled the huge bull. "This is why my teeth stick out. This is why my nose is flat and smashed in. This is why I'm so ugly, so that I can stop this bull from hurting Caroline." The bull's bellows grew weaker. Soon they stopped altogether. Then the bull stopped jerking Algae every which way. And finally, tired out and helpless, the bull stood quietly with his great head drooping and waiting patiently for Algae to stop biting his nose. When the bull stopped moving his head, Algae could unlock his jaws. He pulled his teeth out of the bull's nose and he scrambled quickly under the fence to join Caroline, who had watched the whole thing. "Oh, Algae," cried Caroline, throwing her arms around Algae's nest. "You're the bravest dog there ever was." Algie wheezed and panted with pleasure and licked Caroline's chin. He was very, very happy because now he knew, without a doubt, that he amounted to something after all, even if he was the ugliest dog in the world. How great was that story? You know, it just tells us how God has created each one of us different, and that each one of us has something about us that makes us special and makes us different from everyone else. I love that story, The Ugliest Dog in the World, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.